breaking news.
Hello, I'm Lynda Kincaid. We have breaking news out of Germany. A van has ploughed into a crowd of people outside a restaurant in the city of Munster in the country's northwest. 3 people have been killed, at least 20 others are injured, and the driver has committed suicide. Well, CNN's Erin McLaughlin is following the developments from London, and Erin, police are saying this looks like a deliberate attack. What are you learning?
That's right, Lynda. Authorities saying that this looks like a deliberate attack, but at the moment, the motive in this case is unclear. Very much part of what they're characterizing as an intensive investigation. According to a police spokeswoman, at 3:30 p.m. local time on a sunny Saturday afternoon in the crowded section of the old city of this town, a delivery van was apparently deliberately plowed into a restaurant with an opened area, seating area, in which some 3 individuals were killed, 20 people injured. Of those 20 injured, 6 have life-threatening injuries, and 6 are in critical condition in the hospital. Of the 3 killed, that would include the driver, who, according to the police spokesperson, shot and killed himself following the attack. And again, this is an ongoing and intensive investigation. Authorities working furiously to try and figure out the motive behind this. And as far as we know so far, they also have not identified the driver of that delivery van, Lynda.
And Erin, I understand the bomb squad has been deployed to the area, people being told to stay away. Do we know yet if the van has been investigated that the driver was in?
At this point, we do not. Authorities are being very tight-lipped with the details of this investigation, which, again, is really at the nascent stages. German media reports that they are looking at any potential explosives that might be inside that van. But again, that would be part of a routine investigation into incidents of this nature. As far as we know, as I said, they have not identified the identity of the driver. And again, motive behind this apparent attack being critical as well, Lynda.
And this was, of course, in the afternoon. I think you said around 3 o'clock this happened, when this van ploughed in to these pedestrians. 20 injured, 3 critical. At this stage, what are police saying about whether there was one person involved in this attack or whether there may be more?
We know from media reports that there may have been some eyewitness suggestions of potentially another attacker. That has not been confirmed. No doubt at this stage of the investigation, authorities still trying to piece together exactly what happened, why this driver plowed this van into that restaurant on this sunny Saturday afternoon. So they're trying to piece together the details, who else might have been involved. And again, it's not clear whether they even know the identity of the attacker at this point. So it really, again, the beginning stages of an ongoing, and what authorities are saying is an intensive investigation. We'll bring you those details as soon as we have them, Lynda.
All right, Erin McLaughlin, it is very early in the investigation. Thank you very much for joining us from London. I have on the phone Juliette Kayyem, who is a CNN security analyst, joining us from Boston, actually via Skype, it looks like. Juliette, just give us a sense of what investigators would be looking at right now as they try to determine who is behind this attack.
So the most important thing is obviously to find out the identity of the assailant. We don't know who he is yet, and whether he was known to local law enforcement. In most of these cases, whether it's terrorism or something else, the person has encountered law enforcement at some stage, whether as a petty criminal or someone who is becoming radicalized. Once they know who it is, then the investigation really takes off, because you'll have both his, where does he live? Who are his neighbors? Who is his family? You'll have the physical investigation, and then you'll have the digital footprint about what was he doing online, who did he know, who was he talking to. I'm being purposely careful here because when we look at these things, we think, oh, this is a typical sort of ISIS-inspired attack. The Germans and the German spokespeople are being purposefully, I think, reluctant to say that yet. And I don't know, just as an analyst, whether that's because they know who the assailant is and maybe he's something else, or because they simply don't know yet. So I think we're all being a little bit careful. Even though to viewers it may look like we know what this is, we do need to wait until German officials sort of, say, publicly, this is what we have here.
Right. Juliette, if you can just stand by for me, I want to bring in journalist Julian Reichelt in Berlin. He is the editor-in-chief of Bild Digital. Good to have you with us, Julian. This looks like a premeditated attack. Are police calling it a terror attack? What are they saying? What are you hearing?
Well, only minutes ago, we heard that the perpetrator of this attack is of German background. He's 49 years old. There is no indication of any criminal record from what we hear now. And again, this is very early information, but we just got this: no criminal background, 49 years old, of German descent. That is what we are hearing now, which doesn't exactly sound like an Islamist motive, but obviously that is too early to tell. But again, what we are hearing from authorities now, that the perpetrator drove the car into that cafe, is a 49-year-old German.
So a 49-year-old German man. And very interesting you point that out, because when this story, as this story started to unfold, no doubt a lot of viewers remember that attack on the Christmas market in 2016 that was carried out by an immigrant from Tunisia. And just give us a sense of the sentiment in Germany and where some of the finger-pointing was initially as this started to play out, particularly in this city, which is considered to be quite a tolerant city in Germany.
Yeah, it is a tolerant city. It is a university city, lots of young people. It is actually the city where the right-wing party, the AfD, that was quite successful in the past general election, had the lowest election results, and where traditionally the Green Party and the rather left parties are very strong. This is a very liberal city. But with any kind of attack, any kind of terrorism, you can never really know where it will happen. There is no real pattern to it. So being a liberal city or a more conservative city, it doesn't really protect you from anything. So it's very hard to come from the background and the layout of the city to any kind of motive. But again, from what we hear now, the motive is more than unclear. Obviously, in the first hours after the attack, many people thought about an Islamist background, because this is a footprint that we have seen in the past so many times, starting in Nice, but then also here in Berlin on the Berlin Christmas market. It used to be the signature method of ISIS attacks. But again, as of now, there is no indication that there is any Islamist background. Early things we're hearing from the police more indicate to a German background.
Wow. Okay, Julian, just stand by for us. I want to go back to Juliette Kayyem on that point. Juliette, I want to get your perspective from this, because as we've just heard, it appears this was a 49-year-old German national behind this attack. And as we have seen in recent years, the use of a vehicle in an attack like this is becoming more and more common.
Right. So just picking up on Julian's point, a signature method of an attack, ISIS use of a van plowing a crowded area, does not make it an ISIS attack. And so, we're awaiting authorities, but what at least is being reported in the German media, almost as long ago as an hour ago, when you started to hear things about mental health issues, is that they do believe, or at least they know who the person is, and that this is not sort of an immigrant or a refugee or the sort of more typical radicalization process of someone who may be acting on behalf of ISIS. The truth is, we don't know yet. And so what's most important for German officials right now is to ensure that there's not a second or third wave of attacks. That's just the most important thing, because it's a Saturday night, you have the public out. If they are confident that this is an individualized attack, right, that this is just an individual person with mental disorders, then what they're going to do is obviously deal with a traumatized city and a traumatized nation and those who are harmed, and then also try to determine what might have motivated this on this night. So we're still in we don't know yet in terms of motivation, but I will say what's coming out of Germany right now suggests while this was a signature move in terms of the use of a van in a crowded area, it may not be what we all thought was the case about two hours ago.
And what we know, this city has a population of about 200,000 people, and people are being told to stay away from this pedestrian area. Just talk to us a little bit more about motivation and how investigators there will try and determine the motivation behind this attack.
Well, it's one of the hardest things, obviously, what is in someone's mind that triggers this kind of, action. I mean, you and I are going to look at this from the viewpoint that anyone who does that is crazy, right? But the motivation has to be more sophisticated than that. So there's various kinds of motivation. The one that we anticipated in this case was, of course, a sort of radicalization through ISIS of a violent nature, that someone would either passively absorb materials that would, give them a sense of meaning in their life, and therefore they then conduct violence, or active radicalization. In other words, we might be able to find communications between the person and someone who is radicalizing them. If it's not that kind of radicalization, but another kind of mental disorder or mental illness, investigators will be wanting to talk to family, doctors, others who might know of the individual, might know what triggered this incident this day. I've seen in almost all these cases that these individuals have passed by law enforcement. In other words, whether it was petty crime, it was another violent act. So I would not be surprised if relatively quickly German officials were able to identify him, and also may have had some interactions with him.
All right, Juliette Kayyem, great to get your perspective as always. Thanks so much. We're going to take a quick break, but just to recap, a van has ploughed into a group of pedestrians in a city in the northwest of Germany. 20 people injured, 3 people are dead. We're going to have much more on this developing story when we come back.